All right, I think we are live, and I think all my setup is finally um, working properly, like it wasn't last week. But yes, I spent some time. Again, I'm using Linux, so have to rearrange some permissions on Linux, and trying to learn all that. But we are ready to go, and uh, today is going to be a little just more casual. I don't have that much to say, but I'm going to try to get to some of the things that I didn't do last week. So this week I have. Oh, you can't see that. Let me. Um, just a second. So here, let me just highlight this, make it easier to read. Can I scroll in? I cannot scroll in. Make it bigger. I think I have to go my preferences. Anyway, so we did most of this last week, talking about um, uh, outline text and images, talking about masks and making just very simple rudimentary masks. We talked about CompoKit and MP Comp. Those are just some add-ons that you can get for at Gumroad for free. But I suggest making a slight donation just to say thank you. And talked about highlighting text and changing the color. And yeah, so we did most of this stuff last week, and then this week I didn't get to the strip anatomy. And did I get to? Oh, I did get to the circle mask wipe, but I have another thing that we can show with this with combination. I was just playing around this week with this. So, but anyway, I want to start talking about strip anatomy, meaning the contents of and the handles and the behavior of the strips in the VSE. So let me grab my. Here we go, and I've got this ready. So this is just a something that I downloaded from Pixabay. It's just a video, and anytime you have a video clip, or I don't think this works on image, but video and audio, because they have a start and end. If you hit Alt O, you have to have these selected Alt O. It resets the whole strip back to the original length and everything. So not the original like I turned the audio down because this was super loud. So it doesn't reset that. It just resets the strip itself. And I'm gonna I think just doing one of these at a time. Well, no, we can start like this because it's essentially the same thing. So we've got the audio inside, and I'll bump this up maybe a little bit more so you can see the audio. I'm not going to play it. I actually have it muted on the live stream for now because you don't really need to hear it. But you have two. The reason I want to show this is because when you start to apply effect strips like speed control, and transitions and other things, if you don't understand what's happening behind the scenes, you can make a really big mess out of your scene. So when so this is the original length of the video and audio. So if I take a handle, and this is in Blender 5.2 beta. I'm doing today's release, so June 13th, 2026. So if you're not using that, it might behave differently. But for now, if you try to grab the handles and move them, you can move them in. Let me actually turn those off for just a second. You can take the handles from the start and from the end and move them in. But if I try to move them out past the original size, you see this red outline in these strips. And that is because it's clamping to the contents. So you have two things for each strip, and that is the the strip itself, the container, and then the contents. So the two C's, if you like alliteration, the container and contents. So the container is what we see, what we can click and drag and move, and the handles we can adjust. The contents is what is inside of it. And if I start clicking and dragging, I can press C to unclamp that. And as I do that, you can see that this is where the contents ends. And for video, you just don't see anything else. And for audio, you see this just like stretching here. It's basically taking the very last frame of each of these and stretching it. And again, this is probably not the best video to show for this, but if I turn the thumbnails here from strip ends to continuous, okay, yeah, it doesn't really show that anyway, so it doesn't really even matter. So I'm just put strip ends here again, and what it will do is if I click and drag, it will just hang on that last frame. And same thing with the audio, but I don't think the audio plays at all, so it just the audio stops here. And it's the same thing for the beginning. So if I take the beginning, and since I've already declamped it, it's not gonna ask me to clamp it from this end too. So there you go. So then this is the container out here, and then inside are is the contents of each of these, and you can see that. Now there's another way to visualize this, so I'm going to press Alt-O again. You have to have this selected, of course. And then if I come over to our overlays and turn the offsets on, then if I click and drag and I pull these in, you can see that this offset is where the rest of the contents are. So I'm shortening the container, but the contents is out here like this. So it's pretty straightforward as is. But what you might not know, I'm going to do Alt-O again. And by the way, I just also want to give a shout out to my moderator, who's sitting very close to me, right over here. And no, they can't see you. She's like, no, not ready to be on camera. No. But yes, and so she's always doing a really good job, and she's always very friendly. So as long as you're friendly with her, just leave a comment, question, whatever, and have a what's that? Yeah, well, she said if you're mean, she'll get German on you. So, but so anyway, so with this going into the offsets, if I make a cut here, like this, and by default cut is K. I have different hotkeys, so that's why I don't have the screencast keys on. But now, so I've made a cut, and if I click and drag this over here, you can see that we still have this offset of the entire contents for both of these. So this is the first half of the contents, and then the offsets are the second half. And then on the second half that we cut, it's the opposite. So here's the first half and the second half. And the reason it's like this is because when you make a cut, it's essentially duplicating the contents. And you have a new container, but the contents is duplicated. So if I take this and I press Alt-O for all of these, now we have two duplicated strips of the entire footage. So if you don't know that, then while you're making your cuts, and especially with metastrips, because this is also something that is in metastrips, you're going to have a lot of information potentially that you don't know that it's happening. Now, because this is the default Blender way, I mean, there's no you can't. This is normal, so it's not going to make a problem if you have a whole bunch of different cuts. It's not going to be a problem. Like, but just knowing that you have this, when you cut, it's actually each of these cuts have the entire contents just as an offset in there. So why is this important? It's important for a couple of reasons. First, for transitions. Actually, let me just, let's just start this over again. Alt-O, make a cut. So if we want to do a transition from one to the other, and this is where I'm going to get rid of the audio because it doesn't matter. A lot of people do transitions. I'm going to turn off the offsets for now. A lot of people do transitions like this. So the way to add a simple transition in Blender is essentially what they would do is they would overlap. Like you can either overlap, you know, with the second one on top or with the first one on top. It doesn't matter. But you select the first one and then you shift select the next one, and then you have you go to strip, add, and then transition, and then we're just going to do we'll just do a simple crossfade for now. So then this is what traditional Blender transitions look like. So you have first strip, second strip, and then the crossfade or the transition on top. So the transition is actually itself a separate strip. And so now it's not you're not going to notice anything here. Actually, you know what? Let's get a different video. Yeah, let's do a different video because that is going to show this a little bit better. Why do I not have this up here? Need to go to my videos. And we'll just do one without sound. I think this one doesn't have sound. Okay, good. So this is just a beach. Okay, so now we're going to transition from a little lake to a beach, or a little stream, I should say. So same thing, select, shift select, and then you can go to add or shift A, it's the same thing. Transition and crossfade. So now it's crossfading one to the other. Now, if for some reason you selected them wrong, select the crossfade, go over to your properties over here, strip properties, and here you have your inputs. And all you have to do is switch them is just click this button. And now, so for example, if it started like this, and then all of a sudden you switch, and there's no transition, and then it tries to transition backwards to the stream, and then it all of a sudden, so that means that you've selected them wrong, or Blender just, you know, decided to do it wrong. Then you just come over here, swap those, and then refresh, and it should be the proper transition. So that's how you do regular transitions in Blender. But if you know about the offsets, then what you can do is you can take the end here like this, and you can take the end here like this and go this way. Except for what I'll do instead, I'll do that. Just in case, let's say you want to replicate this exactly with the exact same, you know, what do you call this? Well, let's actually, you know what? Let's do this. We're going to make a cut here, and we're going to make a cut here. Okay, and then I'm going to take all of these and delete them. Now, I'm going to take this one, shift select this one. We're going to do the same thing and add a crossfade transition. And now it does the exact same thing. And we can put all of these on the same channel to save us space. So previously we were doing 3 channels just for a simple fade, crossfade. But now it's the exact same thing. And so you see this here, we have to switch the inputs. So let's just switch that again, refresh, and ta-da! Just one channel. And the reason this works, if I bring that crossfade up and I bring this one up, is because of these offsets. So if I turn the offsets on, each of these offsets, we've got the offset here, and we've got the offset here. This has to be the case if you want to make a proper transition. You have to have enough video to cover the whole crossfade. What I mean by that is if I do Alt-O on this one, and I bring this out here, and there you see how if I bring this in, we've got the offset over here, and if I bring this in, there we go. We have the offset there, but if I have no offset, the transition is going to look like it's transitioning to a freeze frame, because it is. Because if I extend this out by clicking and dragging and then pressing C to undo that clamp, you can see the contents starts here, and there's no contents here. So remember, when that happens, it's just, it hangs on the first frame. And then if it's over here, it hangs on the last frame. So what it's doing is it's trying to crossfade, and it's doing the crossfade, but because there is no contents, it's just a still image. And so that's probably a common mistake that can happen if you don't understand the difference between the strip and the contents and what's happening. Let's Alt-O again here, bring this in. And the same thing here. So let's just do the same thing. Alt-O, and then if I have this here. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to take the end of the contents here and the beginning of the contents here and trying to do a fade, because it's just going to be still image, fading to a still image, and then the movie starts again. Unless that's the effect you're going for, obviously. Yes, she is German. So I'm looking at the comments. Just making sure I'm staying on top of everything here. So this is important now with the hold cut or hold split. So Blender calls cutting splitting. So you split the strips. So here it's split, and then again, remember, it's the duplicated with the offsets. But I'm just going to get rid of, oh, no, I don't want to get rid of that. Just the crossfade for now. Pull this back. Remember, when we make a cut or a split, it duplicates them, and then we have the offset here. However, there's another type of cut or split that we can make, and it is called the hold split. And again, this is going to be Shift K for you, I believe. I have my split and shift, or hold split shift, or my split and hold split F. So F and Shift F. But if you do a hold split, what happens is it makes this the end, the contents end. It actually splits the contents itself. So now this is the new end, and if I press C, see how it clamped it with that red, I can't move it anymore. And then now there's no contents here. So that is what the hold split is. And the hold split, it would be useful in the case of you in the middle of the footage, you wanted a freeze frame. So that now I can click and drag and then press C to unclamp that and drag a freeze frame for however long I want. And then, you know, I can put the video back whenever I want. So if you have, you know, if you want to do effect like someone jumping in the air and freeze frames, or something like that, that's how you would do it with the hold split. Now, it is my recommendation, just because of my ignorance, it's so hard for me to understand how hold splits work, um, because and how they're calculated. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I click and drag this down, oh hey, Yurai is back. Just checking on. Thank you. Glad to be here. Yes, glad you're here. Welcome back again. Yeah, the clamping hold split will come in handy for freeze frames. Exactly. Well, at least we're on the same page there. So the hold split, and maybe Yurai, if you want to help me out with this, they have in Blender 5.2 made this a lot more clear in their language here. So if you look at the time, so this goes your strip properties. If you scroll all the way down to time and open that up, you have your channel that it's on. So we're on channel 6 right now, and then you have your left handle, your strip duration, and your right handle. This is the container. So that's this left handle, right handle, and then the length of the strip is the duration. And then you have your content start and content end and your content duration. Now these are grayed out. I think this is just for information, so you can see that, like where they start and end, but you can't actually click and drag these. But you can click and drag the content, the trim start and the trim end for the content. The confusing thing with this for me still is that when I drag the content trim, it also adjusts the strip, the strip handle up here, or the container handle. And I wish it wouldn't do that. What I would expect to happen is that the strip would stay the same length, and then the content inside of it would slide, you know, back and forth. This is why it's really difficult to get back to the normal cut if you decide that you don't want this hold split anymore. So the workaround that I have is before you do yeah, see right now, and so I'm trying to see, okay, let's just see how we can I'm just gonna get rid of this one. Let's see how we can get the full, because if I do Alt O, and that's the thing here, so Alt O will only reset it to wherever those hold splits are. So this is not the original size of this video. So let's see if we can let's see if we can adjust that or figure that out. See here, and I don't know. Okay, so here, maybe if I bring the end to 0, is that the original? I think that might be the original. Yeah, so that's a bit confusing for me. Okay, I think I see what you mean, and yeah, this has been always confusing for me as well. Way I understand it is the content can't be modified. That's why the container changes. Yeah. But that does lend it to be super confusing. Content trim would just be the container has to be adjusted in order to only show that part. Yeah, I still think I don't know why it would matter. You know, I think Blender could just calculate, well, okay, we're going to pretend the content ends here, you know, and then we can adjust the ending of the content. But either way, so all I noticed was with the content, this was at 303 like this. And then that, you know, that does adjust the container. But if I click and drag that out, yeah, that's where that would end. And so I just looked at this and I saw, well, content trim start 0 and then end 303. I just set that to 0, right? And see, it does adjust this as well. Okay, But I see. So essentially, what it's doing is that it's adjusting the content, but the container automatically um, adjusts along with it, however many frames, which I can get behind if I kind of understand that is what is happening. Um, the issue comes in where the reason why this is not so helpful is because if I had a whole bunch of different cuts, let's just do that. If I had like just a few cuts here, and I wanted you know, like in the middle here, I wanted a freeze frame. So then I would come here and I would do, um, you know, shift split there, and then drag this over, and also drag this over. And then here's our freeze frame. But then, like, if I want to make more cuts here, or if I cut here and I cut here, like it starts to get kind of confusing to them where it's like, okay, if I want to adjust any of these here, and again, I can't think of an exact example right now, but I remember trying this before, but it's just hard to adjust. And so if I didn't want to adjust any of my cuts and have any of the other strips be affected, I would hope that the container would just stay still. But if I adjust this, you see then it throws everything out of whack, and that could be problematic for your the rest of your scene, especially if you have a large scene with a whole bunch of different strips. What I my let's get rid of all of this. Alt O, make sure that everything here is 0. So in order to know if you have the full contents and the full video is to come here and look at the content start and end. Make sure these are both 0. And then you can adjust then you can come over here, press Alt O, and then you should have your whole video. So what I would recommend, so you don't have to worry about any of that, is right before you want to make your freeze frame, make a regular cut. So we're just going to do a regular cut that has a regular offset, and then come over here. Well, actually, I would probably also want to make a cut on the other side. So that way I can come here, and then this is where my freeze frame is. I can do a hold split or a hard cut, same thing. And then make my freeze frame. And then, oops, what's happening here? Come on. There we go. Freeze frame there, and then it's back to normal. Now, these other, did I do that right? Yes. So now these other cuts are a bit of a buffer, so that if I decide to change my mind, I can just delete these, and now none of these have a hard cut. So I can adjust these right away. So these are all just regular cuts. So that's what I would do. That's what I have done in the past. Just make an extra cut, just a regular one, then the hard split, or make 2 extra cuts, and then in the middle where you want to make the hard split, do that. Okay, so another reason to do all of that, and this video is probably not going to be. Let's use this video. It might be a little bit more apparent. Yeah. So you see these waves. Is if I were to make cuts here, a cut here, a cut here, and let's say I wanted to speed this portion of the video up, okay? If I add in an effect strip speed control, and I drag this down, if I drag it shorter, it should be faster, right? So it's going to take, it should take the clip that we just, or this cut that we just had, and then we can clear that gap. And so this should be faster, which it is. But if you're going for something, maybe, and this is maybe not a good video. Think of it. Do I have a video that I can demonstrate this with? Because it's hard to see here because everything kind of looks the same for the whole video. But what it's doing is it's evaluating the entire contents. So remember, and we gotta do this. I hate this. This new, ever since they made this limit view to contents, I hate that. Because that means I can't click and drag my timeline up like this. If there's no strips up here, I can't move it past that. It's just super annoying. So if I take this and I move this up and I turn on the offsets, you can see it still has all of the offset of the whole video. So this speed control is evaluating the entire video, not just the places where we cut. So this is another reason why it's good to understand the anatomy of a strip and the contents and the difference between the container and the contents. In order to fix this, you would have to do a couple of things. Sorry, there are two methods that you could implement. So I'm just going to get rid of this speed control. Actually, we'll just get rid of these and do an Alt-O. So if I want to speed up this, I can use the hold cuts or the hold splits. So remember, we're going to do a regular on either side. Let's just drag this over here like that. So let's say I want to speed up starting from here. Then I would do a hold split here. And then I would do a hold split here. And now if I bring this up, you can see there are no offsets for the overlays to see, which means if I add a speed control on this, now if I bring this down, it's only going to evaluate the cut that we made. Which means that you're not going to duplicate footage. So before we were duplicating the footage, it was taking the whole video, making it really fast, but that was the whole video. But we didn't want the whole video sped up. We want only a portion of the video sped up. So this is how we would get around that. Oh, come on, there we go. So place that back down there, and now with this, we have it going at a regular speed, then it speeds up, and then it slows back down at the same moment of the end of the speed, which wasn't happening before. So that's one way. This is really tedious in my opinion, and the workaround that I have is where you don't have to do all of that regular cut buffer nonsense. Just do a regular cut wherever you want it sped up. And then before you add a speed control, just do Control G and put it in a meta strip. Because if you put it in a meta strip here, I'm going to undo that here. If I bring it up here first, you can see there's offsets. But if I Control G, it clamps those offsets. So there are no more offsets. So if I put a speed control on the meta strip that has no offsets, then it's going to do the same thing. So now it's just going to evaluate this cut that we've made. And this is a lot cleaner of a way to do this, to speed up just the portion that you want it sped up, and you can speed it up as much as you want. Or if you go the other way, you can slow it down. Now, if you go the other way, of course, you don't have, let's pull this up again. Alt O. Okay, and then this is just, you just refresh, or just jiggle the the meta strip a little bit, and that will that speed control will adjust to it. Okay, so in order to make it slow down, you need to go the other way, of course, but we have to unclamp it with C as we click and drag, and so this will be slower. This will be normal speed, and then all of a sudden it's going really slowly. And let's even do a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. So now you can see that's really slowing down. So you could do fake slow motion here, like this. And that's a lot easier than dealing with the hold splits, because if you change your mind, or you realize, oh, you've got the wrong section, especially if it's and this is what I like, especially if it's a lot of different cuts that you want to speed up. So all I have to do is Control Alt G to get rid of that meta strip. Gets rid of everything. We're back to the original cut that we made, and let's turn these offsets off again for now. So yeah, so now let's just say I had, different cuts here like this, and we'll just adjust these here. Let's say I'm cutting some things out, and we're skipping over some things here like this. There we go. But let's say this is still too long, and I want to take all of these. Control G, meta strip, Control A, or Shift A, sorry, effect strip, speed control, and now I can adjust the speed on all of those strips together. So it looks weird, obviously, because I've made those jump cuts in there, but it's just taking that and it's speeding that whole group up. So this is really useful for speeding up entire groups of strips and sections like that. And by the way, last thing with the speed control is you have to, at least as far as I know, for now, you have to adjust it from the end of the strip. If you adjust it from the beginning, I think it doesn't calculate things very well, and things go a little wonky. So just know that when you're adjusting speed, adjust it from the end handle, not the beginning handle. And that can go either way. So again, if we drag it out or drag it in, making it faster or slower, do it always from the end handle. So that's essentially the anatomy of a strip, and it's going to help you to understand what's happening in Blender and how to apply different effects, transitions, and things like that. Oh, Uri. Okay, I have to go, but I'll be back. Okay, well, see you in a little bit. So this is the end of this section so far, and this is really the only thing that I had planned for today, and we're already at 40 minutes, so it took me 40 minutes to explain all that. But we can play around with something else that I have been wanting to try out. Is so if you go to strip here, let's pull this up here. No, add, sorry. These are all the things that you can add. So if you want to, play around with video editing in Blender and the VSE, these are all the types of strips that you can have. And so I've never used this mask uh, strip thing before because let's see, let's just do a mask here. Let's get rid of all this. Let's do Alt O. We can do something like if we want to do a title. Let's add in a color. Well, no, just straightforward. Just do straightforward. Well, that's not going to help anyway because this is going to be the text. Well, we'll just do a simple circle mask. So, okay, I'm going to duplicate this little area or this little tab workspace or whatever here. We'll call this masking. And then I'm just going to open up a new area, change the editor type to image editor. And then we're going to do the render result here. And in order to get the render result, you have to press F12. And we're in the video editing workspace. So in the very beginning, which I didn't do, didn't show you, is we went to new and then video editing. So make sure you do that. If you didn't, and if you're just adding different workspaces here to the regular one, you're going to want to come over to render properties all the way down to color management. Make sure your view is standard and your display is sRGB because that's going to be the standard display for like video footage. Otherwise your colors are going to be off. It's going to be trying to do some 3D color rendering with lighting and stuff. And then in the output properties here, go all the way down to post-processing and make sure sequencer is checked at least. Now, I'd probably keep compositing checked, especially if you're going to be using the compositor with the VSE, which you can now with 5.2. Well, with 5.0 actually. But at least have the sequencer checked, because if you don't, then you're going to be rendering blank. Okay, and then the last thing too is to make sure that all of the sequencer areas, we have the proper scene selected. There's the scene here and then there's the scene here. Now we only have one scene, but if we click X, for example, on this, then you're not going to see anything. It's going to be blank. And it's going to say new here, or choose the one we already have. So we're just going to choose the one we have. So just to make sure we can see everything in all of our different areas here. And then if you have Blender default up and you press F12, you're going to have an entirely new window pop up. If you don't want that, go to Edit, Preferences. Let's do, it's Interface. Down to Temporary Editors. And then Render In, and then just select Keep User Interface. It's by default, it's on New Window. And so if I press F12 with that new window, a new window pops up with the Blender renderer. Now you might want this, which is fine, but that is how to change it if you don't want it. I don't want it because it's over here, and I purposely have it set up like that so I don't have to bounce back and forth between two different windows. Okay, so now we're good to start making our mask. In our image editor, we can change the view type or change the mode from view to mask. And then when we do that, we have to scroll over and we have to create a new mask or select one. But there's none to select, so I'm going to click New Mask. That just makes everything ready for us to add our mask. So the mask is essentially, it's the entity, which is it's like an empty. It's like doesn't exist. It's almost like an invisible container, if you want to think about it like that. And now when we add the circle or square or any points, that's called the spline. So we can add the spline to this. So we're just going to add a circle, but it's going to add it down here where our 2D cursor is. But if I shift right click, we'll move that 2D cursor to be wherever. If I hit N, I can open up the View tab, and this is the location of the 2D cursor. If I just type in 0.5 for both of those, that's going to go right in the center of our image or of our render area. So I want it right in the center, and now we can go to add and then circle, and you can see if we scroll in, these are the splines, and it's just a regular curve that you can adjust with these. I'm not going to. I'm just going to make sure you have them all selected by pressing A and S to scale that up. So if we take this, strip, and we go to our strip properties, strip modifiers, add a modifier, mask, and then if we choose mask, then we can select our mask. And now it applies the mask to this. And you can see the only area we see is inside of the circle. And the reason we see that is if we come up to the top here and scroll over this way, is it under our overlays? Yeah. So our overlays, if I click overlay down here, you can see what's happening. So standard black and white mask, all you watching this probably know what this is already. So inside here, white means fully opaque and black means fully transparent. So that's why we see this transparency here like this. If we do an Alt S to scale, we can scale out a feather like that, and we have to come down here and refresh, and then you can see that's feathered those edges there. And so now we have a gradient from white to black, and you can see that affects how transparent it is. So that's how that works. Now, if I press N and bring these back up again. In fact, let's click and drag this over so we have a little bit more room here. If I go to my mask, we have a whole bunch of different options. And you can see the first option here is a mask layer. We don't have to touch this now, but just know that you can add different splines on different mask layers, which you can hide and unhide from render or preview. We're not going to mess with that right now, but right beneath it, we have the opacity of the mask. And so if we bring that opacity down, you can see we're just adjusting, how white or gray it is. And so if we refresh that, then you can see, well, we've got a lot more transparency now because it's not fully white in the middle here. But right next to it, I'm going to put this back at 1 opacity. Right next to it, this is the invert. So if I click this, now it just inverts everything. So now in here, when we refresh this, we should expect to see the transparency in the middle and the image or the video on the outside as opaque. So let's refresh, and that's exactly what we see. So this essentially is creating a hole right here. So we talked a little bit about masks last time. What I'm doing right now is I'm adding a mask directly on this from the masking area. So what you can do instead is add in the mask as a strip like this. And you can see that in our video editing, just looking at that strip, you can see it's just our mask. And so I can just take the mask like this and adjust it to any video. So let's just say let's bring that other video that I had Um, which one was it? Oh yeah, it was the. Let's discount. Oh. So the also in Blender 5 now, or maybe it was 4.5. I can't remember. You have these connect. I can't, if I try to select only the audio and then um, delete it, it's not going to delete it because it's also connected to the video. So I'm just going to disconnect strips so that I can select only the audio and then delete that. But now, I can make this mask. See, and it still doesn't make sense. Because this is a lot more of a hassle. But anyway, just to show you what this looks like, if I hide the mask, and then we get rid of the mask from here, now we have a new strip that we can select, which is the mask. So we can now use the strip as the mask instead. And so now, so it basically creates a hole so you can see what's beneath it. And so if we put this strip beneath it, you can see that's kind of maybe how you would use something like this. The issue is, why would we want to do this? Because what I would suggest is that if we wanted to easily animate this mask, so if I wanted to make this like scale or move from one end to the other, like this, it's so much easier in the video sequence editor than it is in the masking. Masking animation with splines like this is so outdated in my opinion, and it's very finicky. So in here, if we can just bring it in as a strip, I can just put regular keyframes. So we're going to go here like this, snap it there. Let's add in. Let's do this properly. Let's go all the way to the beginning with all of these here. We'll end everything here, and then I'm going to take this mask and we're going to animate it. So position, we'll just do the position for now. There, and then let's say right in the middle, we'll have it on the opposite side. Boom. And then at the end, or right towards the end, right before the end, we'll have it right in the middle. Boom. So now we have an animation that looks like this. Okay, so that's way too slow. So let's open up another area over here. I'm just going to do the timeline because I'm just going to go to the beginning here and scale that down. So now we have a faster, yes. Now, how I'm doing it like this is probably not exactly going to be exactly what I'm going for, just because, well, if I hide the videos, hide, there we go. You can see that this is transparency. Transparency, if there's nothing beneath it, is the same thing as blackness. So we might have to do a little bit of adjusting. I think we can do it with an alpha under, actually. That which has been a lifesaver for a while now for my Blender stuff. So let me just show you like transparency is the same as black. So basically we're going to have black here, and then just white here, or the picture here. If I unhide this and then now I apply this mask to it, which it should be, and then if I hide the mask, yes. So now, so this is what we would actually expect to happen. So what we have to try to do, well, let's do this. Unhide. So if you were just trying to get a you know, kind of like a, I don't know, spy James Bond type of effect, where it's like whatever, and then you wanted to like clue in, like you're looking through a scope on something. We'd have to make sure everything else stays white. And I think the way we can do that is with a color like this. If we make the color all white, that doesn't help us because it's on top. If I put it on the bottom, it doesn't help us because it's underneath everything. But if I put it on top, this still might not work, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Well, we're going to try. And we select the blend mode to be alpha under. Okay, yeah. That doesn't work. Oh, wait, hold on. Does it, though? Can we do this? No. Because it's still going to be under everything. But I just want, I only want it to be under the mask. So, okay, so essentially what we're going to have to do is put them in a meta strip. So let's do this. We can just put this as an alpha over still. Put the mask, unhide the mask. So now you can see what's happening here with the mask. So this is essentially what we're looking for. But now we'd have to put these into a meta strip. Oops, not hide them. Control G, meta strip. And then we would have to change this to the meta strip and hide it. Now we have that effect because now we have all of the edges around everything still white. Conversely, if it was the opposite, we wouldn't have to do it this way because we'd be using the black or the white image or the black image to our advantage. So, for example, if we just get rid of that color strip again, it's this here. But if we are going to go to our masking, if we click invert again, now if this moves, you can see that, well, if I hide this, remember how I said the transparency and the black are the same thing? Well, we don't need to add another black color strip because this is automatically going to be black. So, so if let's try that again. So if I unhide these and I hide this one, you have to hide it if it's above it, obviously. Okay, my microphone, my headset shuts off if it doesn't detect any audio for a while, even though I'm speaking into the microphone. So that's kind of annoying. Okay, so now if I select the mask, now we have the same effect without having to have a different a different color added. So you might, if to keep it simple, you might want to play around with that to see if we're trying to do it a specific way. Then what I would do is I would just get it, like if we wanted to replicate exactly what we saw before, with the beach being the one in the background, and then the stream being the one in the circle, then I would get rid of it on, we just flip these. So I get rid of it on the beach. I'd bring the stream up to the top, and then I would add the mask on that one. There you go. And now we have that. So that's the exact same thing, only using the mask. So this is really what I would use the mask strip for, would be animation. Otherwise, if you're not animating your mask, or not necessarily even animation, but if you're moving the mask. So even if we didn't have any animation on this, which let's if I add in another mask, see that's also the cool thing. I can add in another mask, same mask, but this strip isn't animated. So if I wanted to use the same mask animated in one spot and not in another, this is another reason why this would be useful. But now let's just use this, taking this, and I can scale this, and well, rotating it won't do anything, but I can scale this and move this, and we'll just have that up there. If your mask isn't moving and you want to see, something above or below that, now we can take this and we can choose mask 1, which it automatically renamed it because it's duplicate. And now if we hide that, now we have that in the corner. And this is really useful because we haven't changed our mask. We haven't made this smaller and moved it up like this, which would change a whole bunch of different things. And it's a little more finicky that way. So if I scale everything like this, you see it's adjusting the feather as well. But if I scale it as a strip here, it doesn't affect that feather. The feather stays relative to where it is. So you got just different advantages of having these masks as strips. Again, you can go to the mask itself and apply it directly from the splines themselves on the strip. But it's just it all depends on what you're doing. And this gives you a lot of versatility. So let's see, what are we at now? We are just over an hour, and I know Yurai said he was coming back, but I don't really have much more today. That was kind of it. I'm trying to think. Oh no, there was one other thing. I will show you one other thing. And that is, we did this a little bit last time, but I'm going to try to incorporate it with these two videos. And that is our, let's see, let's just do in the middle here. We're just going to make a cut. We're going to delete this one. We're going to delete this one. And this is what we're going to put our little wipe on here. So select this one, add in a transition wipe. And now for this I have to, because we're doing it the way that we started. If you haven't been here from the start of this live stream, go back and watch the beginning, because I talk about the anatomies of the strip and how all of this is put together so that we can put the transition of the wipe or the crossfade or whatever on the same channel, so we don't have to have 3 different channels. Just a lot cleaner that way. So that's what I'm doing here. So now with this wipe, this is okay, but it's obviously we have to go to our strip. We have to switch the inputs because um, it was the wrong way around. So this is okay. It obviously it makes for a decent transition, but sometimes I like to have this like little line in between the transition, like a white line or black or color, whatever. And essentially what you would have to do is have a line and match it with animation to kind of go as an overlay on top of this line. But I was playing around with some things earlier, and now I have to remember how I did it. If I added this wipe, on a color, so we're gonna add two colors. I'm gonna this color, and we'll shift D to duplicate that. The second color, what we're going to do is come over to our transform, and the scale, I'm going to type in 0 so that we don't see it at all. And I'm actually going to switch these, right? No, wait, hold on. Yes, I want to go from transparent to white. So, okay, now we have white. And then if I do a little, wipe on these, so select this one, shift select this one, okay, transition, wipe, same thing. See, and it doesn't, when I do it like this, it doesn't do it the correct way. So we're gonna flip those inputs. There we go. So I want this to happen. I want the white to be scrolling down like that. Okay. So now if I come and just match this, the length of the wipe, so just take the color and just on either end and make sure they're the same. So let's refresh that. Yeah. Okay. And now if I take this and I grab this and move it down at the bottom, okay. Now you don't see anything, but if I take the wipe and I do this, okay, thank you. And I move it down, I think just a little bit like that. Nope, that didn't make a difference. Okay, hold on. Oops. Oh, you're back. Uri, hi. I just noticed there is dedicated compositor strip in the add menu now. Yes, there is. And that's also confusing. Okay. I expect soon we'll be able to pre-package effect strips. You can now actually already, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But what I'm trying to do is, do I need to move the color down? How did I do that before? Where's the, okay, I do have this here. Or do I have to move this down? I know I have to move one of them down. I thought it was the wipe. I'm going to just take all of them and just move them down. Huh. It is like it is like this, but I can't remember why. I can't see it because it has to be over. It has to be over. It has to be in between these. Can I even do that? Hold on. So essentially what I'm doing is trying to use the same wipe, but then you can see a little bit of that white underneath it. And I got this to work before. But it's not it's not working now, and I can't entirely remember why. I do think yeah, you know, I'm gonna have to abandon this for now because I don't know if I actually saved the one that I had. It's not even that interesting, but I'll abandon it for now. We're gonna move on to Yurai's question. Just notice that there's a dedicated compositor strip. Okay, yes. So let's just do that. So we have a compositor strip effect. We're just gonna do this like normal here. Effects, nope, compositor. And now this is like a this is like if you wanted to do a fade. The only thing that I know how to do with this is the fade. So now let's add our compositor over here. And let's select our sequencer, and then let's, oh yeah, we still have to have a new compositor effect strip there. So let's create a new one. The only thing I really know how to do is the mix. So now you have input 1 and input 2, which are the strips. So input 1, input 2, and again, if we find that they're switched, then we can switch them either in the compositor or we can just switch the inputs here. But for now, let's add in a color, mix color, and then we plug input 1 into A, input 2 into B. And then you have this effect fader, and with the default fade checked, just plug that into the factor. And then it should do our, okay, it is backwards. So we're just gonna click to move that again, just the easiest way. And now you can see it mixes between the two. So you can now use the compositor effects strip as a compositor for the nodes in here. This is probably going to be only, or not only, but mostly used for transitions. So you can see the transition just like we were doing with the other transitions, so the crossfade and the wipe. But now, instead of just a crossfade and a wipe, you can have a whole bunch of nodes here that do all sorts of fun things for transitions. But the problem is I don't know how to do all of those. Now, as an alternative, you could just, instead of the compositor strip here, you could just overlay it like this and do a cut and then just put it the same thing. Come on, select that one on this, but I have to have compositor and same thing selected. There we go. So, but then this would have to be, we'd probably have to switch these then. Nope, this isn't going to work because there's no more compositor strip, and then we don't have input 1 and input 2. So we just have to make a new one. So I'm going to delete this, new, and now we can. What I would actually just do is for a crossfade is just a regular fade, which I wouldn't use the effects sequencer compositor for. But and I don't even know if I would know how to use it. Okay, let's read some of Yurai's. I expect soon we'll see prepackaged strip. Oh, I'll get to that too in a second. Not necessarily just transitions. Could be used for shapes generation. Correct. Yes. Yep. But I would say that the shapes generation. The thing is with the compositor effect strip, this thing, it needs two inputs. So it's dependent on two strips already. If you wanted just shapes, you would just probably have a strip like a color strip, and then use the compositors on the standalone strip. That's what I would do. Um, Something like my package does. So like you'd have a strip for a star shape or a round rectangle. But yeah, those inputs it offers doesn't. Yes, exactly. So if you were using those shapes as a transition from one strip to another, then yes, you could do. But that's why I'm saying it's probably going to be only used for transitions. Not only, but mostly. I don't know what else it would be used for because of how it's actually set up. And you can see me using this right now. I couldn't use the same one with the input 1 and input 2. I think I remember when I first tried this, I had a hard time with that too, because right now input 2 is just black. And so I'd need to plug something into input 2, you know. And I don't know if that's possible other than just a color. Yeah. So that is very confusing. It's not the most straightforward thing, but prepackaged effect strips. I'm just going to do because I actually want to do this. I'm just going to do an invert. So remember, do we still have those masks? Oops, I don't want to delete all of that. Let's add in that mask. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to do an add a modifier compositor. We're going to do a new, and then I'm going to just call this invert. Or yeah, just say invert is fine. And all I'm going to add here in the middle as a node is a color, invert color. Okay, so now I've got that. Watch this. I can select this now. Let's get rid of this mask. On this strip, I can add a modifier, and right now I have unassigned, but it essentially is now prepackaged. Just Blender recognizes it here. So I'm going to add in an invert on this strip. So now if you have a specific effect that you're going for, you don't have to go, build it out again. You can add it as a modifier itself to any of your strips. So I think if that's what you're talking about as far as prepackaged, you can already do this essentially. Let's see, maybe some special effects like glitch effects, since it can be input underlying strip images and deform it. Yeah, but that's something that I think I would just do with an adjustment layer. So take the invert for example. If you wanted to make well, even not an invert. Let's just do because there's we have creative, film grain, sensor noise, chromatic aberration. Let's do chromatic aberration. So instead of adding it on the strip itself, I do chromatic aberration here, and then you can set the factor for that. So that's the effect that you're going for, and then chromatic aberration sequencer. There it is. This is all this is what all nodes go into making this. But and you could what you'd probably want to do is like do an animation of the factor here. But I wouldn't do it on this strip, because if I do it on this strip, then I'm going to have to do it on this strip and this whatever. But if I wanted to have it done on any strips that were below it, I just do it on an adjustment layer. So to put in an adjustment layer, and the adjustment layer will affect everything that's below the adjustment layer, no matter what it is. So we could stretch it across. Come on, I just want this one. We could stretch it across both of these. So both of these would have that chromatic aberration. So let's do that, bring it up here. So wherever this is, it's going to add that same chromatic aberration or whatever we put on here. So if we do we could do our invert. So it's inverted all of those. That's what I would do. If I was doing some sort of effect, because most likely you're gonna want to add an effect on several layers of strips. So yeah. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna probably stop here. I know you just got back, Uri, but we're going on what is it now? Hour and 20 minutes, which is about normal. So we usually end this about an hour and a half. Moderator, you have any? Okay, yeah, she's giving me the thumbs up. um, so yeah, this was good. I'm glad because I didn't really have much more than this planned. And again, Uri, when you have your comments and your questions, it's very helpful because it just adds more content that I haven't thought of, and probably other people are wanting to know these kind of things too. So, um, so man, what does it say? Man, I feel like it's becoming harder to think of new tools for Blender since it's becoming so awesome. Yes, well, Blender really needs to focus more on, which it is, but it needs to focus more on like consistency and being more intuitive. And I think that's going to be a forever thing. But I think it is. I think Blender now is so much more user friendly and intuitive than it used to be. But there's still a long way to go in some of the areas. The video sequence editor is one of those. The masking is another one. I mean, the masking tools could be so much better. Although I did see something which I'm not going to demonstrate because I don't know the first thing to try to figure out how to even recreate it. But with the compositor, you actually now have pinpoints where you can take and skew like if you have a mask, you can take and skew the mask and do animation with that too. Don't know how to do that. Maybe that'll be good for a next live stream. But anyway, yes, okay. Pleasure on my side. Well, and same here. I always learn something here. Well, that's good. I mean, with your help, I learn things too. So that's great. But and that goes for anybody who is has any questions. I will do my best to engage like I do with Uri and anybody else who makes a comment. And same with the moderator. She likes reading your comments and she'll respond. And yeah, but we are about to, I think, encounter another thunderstorm soon. So hopefully. I'm glad I was able to do this while we still have power, but we may not have power later, depending on how bad it is. But anyway, you don't need to know that. Let's do this. There we go. So happy blending. Hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend, and you will see me in the next one. Talk to you later. And as always, have to figure out how to end my live stream. Because there's two buttons. You have to do it in OBS Studio, and you have to